This energy reminds me of, those people who do like polar plunges, and go and jump in like really cold water, especially when it is already cold outside, kind of like a shock to the system kind of vibe. This feels like someone's undergoing that. So I want a little bit more information on who, what, when, why, how, where, how, all of that. So, I mean, with this top row here, we have the Hangman, the Queen of Swords, the Sun, and the Five of Cups, which is kind of an interesting combination, but I think does kind of confirm and expound on what I was getting there, where I think that there's this feeling that someone, um, maybe you, maybe someone in your circle had lost something with this like Five of Cups, and was kind of in the position of like feeling a little bit tied down from that, and like kind of trying to learn from that, trying to move forward um in the best way possible. But there's been something with this like sun that feels like very much, again, like a little bit of a shock to the system. Like someone's like sitting in this energy of trying to move from this state of just being broken down, grieving, trying to be like, okay, I'm hanging in there, I'm making the best of this. And then we get hit with the sun card, which is like the total opposite. And that coming out next to the Queen of Swords is, I think that there's some kind of like communication that's gone on that has shifted the perspective of the situation in a pretty drastic way. So I think either you are the person who has communicated in some kind of way, or you are the person on the receiving end of this communication. But I think that whoever, whatever your place in this is, kind of the energy that feels the most unsettled is the person who is kind of like receiving this. Um, because I think that like what they felt like they kind of lost out on, I'm getting, is kind of like represented by this Queen of Pentacles and this Hermit, where the Queen of Pentacles under the Hanged Man is almost like either a person or a situation that they lost out on and like kind of had to gain perspective on in retrospect, that was like very nurturing, like very good for them, very healthy. And I think that like where they are at now is kind of this hermit, this looking within, this self-reflective kind of energy. And I think, like I said, like trying to glean some wisdom from the way that things fell apart, and the way that they kind of like lost out on whatever this energy was that was like very nurturing, very wholesome, very loving. But now they're feeling a little conflicted because we got this Five of Wands under the sun. And so I'm kind of curious about that. Like, why, if they've gained the perspective that this was a good thing, if they're grieving the loss, then why is a little bit of hope with the sun leaving them feeling conflicted? Well, I feel like it may have to do about with like why things fell apart in the first place. Because we got the Nine of Swords under the Five of Cups, and I think this may have something to do with like them feeling responsible for that loss. And so, and it was almost like this was such a heavy thing to lose in the first place. It was the sun, the source of life and warmth and wholesomeness. Um, and they were learning to live without it. And now there is some kind of communication, something that has reignited this hope with the sun. And now there's this anxiety that is causing some resistance, I think, because there's this fear of loss that's still present. And I feel like that fear of loss is almost a little bit more potent now that they know firsthand what that feels like. What that feels like, you know? I want some more information on like what's going on with this hermit hanged man. King of Swords, the Magician. Seven of Cups reversed. Four of Swords. And I feel like there's one more. The Tower. Indeed. So, well, I think it's interesting that I was talking about someone else communicating with this individual as represented by the Queen of Swords up here. And now when we're looking specifically into this energy, we're getting the King of Swords, which, you know, to me is very much giving like wanting to match that, like wanting to communicate in a way that is similarly abundant and similarly enlightening, and I think successful as far as shifting the energy of the dynamic. Um, and I am like with this Magician that came out next, I think that this is something that I'm almost like getting that the, you know, they almost felt like they wouldn't have the opportunity to do, and so now there's like a little bit of that, you know, like conflicted energy as well as those almost like, well, am I ready? Am I ready? Um, but with like the Seven of Cups reversed, it's almost like it doesn't matter. Like there isn't any other option because the Seven of Cups upright is all about having lots of options, daydreaming, kind of wishy-washy type of energy. But the Seven of Cups reversed, it's like they don't want to like sit around and wait. They don't want to like sit around and think. It's like they know what they want. The conflicted energy is not about knowing what they want. The conflicted energy is about knowing and believing that they are capable of maintaining that. And I think that like previously they, you know, have kind of been in this state of like rest, recovery, of like a little bit of like hands off. With like the tower coming there, it's again, it's like the energy of like that polar plunge, that shock to the system, that feeling of like, okay, now we get up and go. Now we get up and go. I got to find a way to match this energy. It's like there's no other choice. So, what can you tell me about how this is gonna go? Seven of Swords, Page of Swords, the Empress, Queen of Cups. Again, I feel like there's one more. The Ace of Swords. Interesting. I feel like it's almost like coming to me as like this journey for this person, whether this is you or another person, is gonna come in kind of like two steps here. And I think that a lot of it is about like receiving and integrating the truth and like feeling capable of like holding that and nurturing that with the Empress in the middle. And I think that like within themselves, it's almost like this healing and this reconciliation of the lies that were being told to their brain, with the Seven of Swords, Page of Swords. And I think like some of them, you know, it was like a lot of these false beliefs about what happened, about how they were perceived, about this situation, like all of that, that I think sometimes like their brain just took and like kind of ran with. But I'm seeing this energy. as being something that kind of like soothes those fears and reveals them for what they are, um in a way that kind of like supersedes the tricks that their brain's playing on them. And I think in regards to kind of the situation as a whole, as opposed to like their internal conceptualization of it, I'm seeing that as kind of represented by this Ace of Swords and Queen of Wands. Because I was talking about this situation, person, energy, whatever it is, before being represented by the Queen of Pentacles. We have another Queen out here, and I think Lover's on the bottom of the deck there. I think like this is, representative of them approaching like the same situation. That it's still like this very kind of like nurturing, fluid, receptive kind of energy, but I think like approaching it with this understanding of the truth, with this clarity, because I think before, honestly, even before any of this broke down, I feel like a lot of these like illusions represented by the Seven of Swords were present. I feel like that's something that almost feels like more deeply rooted in this person's energy. And potentially even like contributing to like this Nine of Swords that we got over here, um, under the Five of Cups, like contributing to a lot of the anxieties that they have, a lot of the fears of, repeating the past. This, again, feels like more deeply rooted than a single situation. Um, that's for later. We're gonna finish this. But I think like the way that they're going to approach this is, less from this position of, oh well, like it was inevitable, or this always happens to me, but more from this like place of, I'm getting like kind of like the marriage of like compassion and truth, because I think in this case the truth is a beautiful thing. And I think like realizing that and being given that, like I was saying, it makes them want to reciprocate, especially in communication, which is Ace of Swords. And so I think that, whenever they approach this energy again, it's going to be from a place that I think feels like less rigid. It feels less restrictive. It feels a lot clearer. I think like they almost know what their heart wants now. Um so I want to look at potential outcomes, starting with this Knight of Cups over here and moving to the Wheel of Fortune, the Moon, Three of Cups. Can't tell if there's one or two more, but there's something else. Two more. Two of Wands and Four of Pentacles. Okay. So I think that like the outcome of this, there are certain things that are a little obscured yet with the moon. But it doesn't feel like in a negative way. It almost feels like this is not a bad thing, but like knowing this would potentially impact the outcome, so there's only so much that you're allowed to know. But I think like the overall outcome for this energy, this person, is really to be moving more from a heart space and moving more with the universe and like putting more trust in that. Because I think that like whatever this is, it feels like it's restored a little bit of their faith in the universe, and their trust in it. And I think like that's gonna help with, some of the not knowing. But I also think that there's a lot of like joy and stability in this future. It's almost like that's when I picked up the deck and the Ten of Cups had fallen off the bottom. So yeah, there's a lot of, I'm being given like the choice to pursue joy. Like, it's not that, oh, it's inevitable, we're gonna make you be so happy here. But it's like you being given, I think, more opportunities for that, and more opportunities for that that like are not going to slip away, that you don't necessarily have to hold so tightly to. Apparently there's more. These cards are like falling out. Um King of Cups, Queen of Wands, Knight of Pentacles, Eight of Cups, Justice. I think that there was a feeling in this situation of almost like it's going to take a really long time and a lot of effort to get where they want to go, where this person wants to go. Um, and something about the truth of this situation and the way that both of these energies with the King of Cups and Queen of Wands have handled it, it's almost like detaching from this like Knight of Pentacles, this feeling of, slowly but surely, it may be a while, it's almost like realizing that, you know, the balance is here now. The truth is here now. The opportunity is here now, and you can kind of keep plugging away at the little things or like accept what's here now. There's the Ten of Cups again. Um and I think like that's a lot to take in and of itself. Um but with Justice there, I do feel like this is something that is like grounded, and this is something that is fair, and this is something that is true. And when you're building from something that is grounded, that is fair, that is true, that's something with the potential to last. That's a kind of foundation that you can really rely on. And I think that this person is working to trust that and working to see the truth of like not just who other people are, but also like who they are, and see and accept and understand that. Um, I just noticed we had all the queens on the table. So I think that there's also, and we also have the Empress. So I think that there's something here about also like receiving. And whoever this person is, I think that they may be very used to having things taken from them and not very used to maybe even like taken from them in a really big way. Losing a lot, but there's almost like this wound surrounding like that more receptive feminine energy. And I think that like this is an opportunity to kind of like heal that, to move into a place of balance, of receiving, of Ten of Cups again, of fulfillment. But it is a choice. It is a choice. So whether this is you or someone else or whatever this is, I think you have all the agency in the world to choose whatever it is you want, but the resounding advice from Spirit here seems to be that I think you may have a better time if you allow yourself to choose to receive love and choose to receive success and choose to receive positivity when it comes to you, and believe that you are worthy and capable of nurturing that, of holding that, and of perpetuating that, because you are. So, best of luck with this. I think that it has the potential to be truly lovely.